Oli, Oli, bienvenidos otra vez más a otro episodio de Las Paleteras, aquí con su amiga Jose Richard Aviles, alias Nalgona, y acompañado de...
Sheila.
Y Cesar Camacho.
A huevo. You know what I was thinking the other day? Adele just came back, did her residency in Munich. Did you hear that?
Interesting, no.
She has 10 shows, and she announced that she's going to go on a big-ass break after that.
Okay.
Unless she's going to come out with an album called 45 at this point.
She's teasing us.
Right, but I also saw...
It's a good year.
I also did see that there are a couple of dates left in her residency in Vegas, and I thought about going. And then I looked at the tickets, and at least back then, they were like $1,000.
Damn.
Would you pay $1,000?
No, I would not. The most I've ever paid for a concert was $400 para ver a Benito, Bad Bunny.
You paid $400?
I did.
Pero ese no es pinche talento.
I did that for Beyonce.
Okay, mira, pero
I felt-
déjame explicarles. Es que I did really enjoy...
I had fun at the concert. I went to the concert.
I really enjoyed his album from 2022. I thought it was an excellent album.
Verano Sin Ti?
El Verano Sin
Yeah,
Ti.
that
I
one's
thought
good.
it was
Yeah.
excellent. Like banger after banger after banger.
It was good.
And Nalgona can't hide it. I thought, and I was like, I love that album. I thought he was excellent. I thought he was having his moment. I was like, ese es el peak de Bad Bunny. I knew it. I could feel it. I was like, there's no way. There was like no way you get higher than this. And I really enjoyed this album. I'm really enjoying him right now. Pero yo sé que va a ser una pendejada. Like, you know, and there's no, and so I was like, I just want to be part of this cultural moment. I had never paid something like that for a concert. And that was it. And I had a great time. And I'm so glad I got to see him live. And that was part of that cultural
You
moment.
saw him in LA?
I did.
Who'd you see? Was it Ivy Queen or Cardi B?
Ivy Queen.
Okay, me too.
Yeah.
That made it so worth it too.
Yeah.
That was the only moment during the concert that I sang.
Entonces, ¿tú también fuiste?
Yeah.
¿Tú también
I know-
fuiste?
I know you sang, and you paid $500.
No. Let's not get into that one. It was my friend took me, and I was malacopa, so my apologies, prima.
That's a prima.
Yeah, my apologies, prima. You know la prima, Michelle.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you know la prima.
Yeah, I know la prima.
The only reason why I would pay $1,000 for Adele is because she is a singer-songwriter.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is talent. That is worth $1,000. And also, I mean, the
her
venue
voice is one
small,
of the best voices
100%.
in our
And the venue is
generation.
small.
It's intimate.
It's like 4,500, people, and you get a stand-up comedy show and stuff like that. So that's the only reason I do it.
I mean, if someone takes me, si alguien me quiere invitar y llevarme a Vegas.
Cállate. No, but that's real. También si alguien me quiere
Si
invitar.
alguien me quiere, yo voy.
I told somebody the
I'll
other
pay
day.
for the drinks.
These two, the producers we were talking about. I was like, look, I mean, like, if one of y'all got good credit, bitch, down. Because, like, not so much on me, but, like, I can't pay $1,000 like that. But I can do a payment plan.
Yeah, we do a little payment plan.
You know, that I
Yeah, for
can
someone
do.
you really love.
So do we pay rent or do we go to see Adele?
No, but with a payment plan, I can do both.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
The pagos.
But
Lay
anyhow,
away.
La cundina, bitch. Yo, I should just do a cundina. Let's do a cundina. Okay, but that
Una
brings us
tanda.
back. I wanted to start us off there, but ya le estamos entrando. But I wanted to talk today about, dinero.
Yeah.
It's something I feel like we're all impacted by, of course, and very timely in the world at this moment.
Yeah.
How do we unpack some of that as queer people, Latino folks? Like, how do we, our perceptions and understanding of that, right? Yo ahorita estoy en ese momento, como dijo la gran Juanga, no tengo dinero ni nada que dar. Lo único que tengo es amor para dar. Así que, amorcito se lo doy.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, what is kind of like first thoughts, impressions, because such a big question to unpack around money.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I realized is like we have been taught sort of like, especially as Latinos and Latina people, like, I feel like a lot of us have like trauma with money, ¿verdad? And a lot of us have learned, like, we haven't talked about it. We didn't learn how to talk about it. We don't talk about it. Tenemos miedo. We have a weird relationship with it. And I'm finally in the stage where like, oh shit, like I need to amend this relationship. Porque I think for a long time, I wasn't taught certain things. And then I got to the point where I was like, I should know these things. And because I felt like I should know these things, I didn't ask about these things because I'm like, me da pena to say that I don't know what I think I should know by my big age or whatever. And so now I'm in the point where I'm trying to amend that because I'm like, me going from not knowing and then having shame of not knowing certain things is now impacting me in a real way. And you just have to get out of that place of shame. And like, I'm in the point where I'm like, fuck it. Like there's things I need to know and I want to know right now so that I can feel some peace. So I'm very much in the process of like working on my relationship with money and learning the things that I really need to know right now in order to have a lot of peace. So I'm very much like very actively right now working on my relationship with money and making some moves, which we'll talk about more in the episode. Yeah.
That was a lot. I mean, not in a bad way, but it was like a lot to then unpack.
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear from you, Cesar. I then have a follow-up question.
Yeah.
No, I feel like the same way that you said. I feel like my relationship with money has been very different, especially coming from like immigrant Mexican parents. I feel like it's always like survivor mode, like trying to survive, trying to meet the bills and pay. And like, I feel like for me, I'm not a big saver. I'm kind of just like, I make money and I'm like, ¿qué puedo comprar? Or let me go on viajes. And I feel like, I mean, I'm enjoying, por eso trabajo, you know what I mean?
Right.
To like be able to do stuff. But I feel like now, like entering different corporate jobs, I'm like, oh wait, I actually need to invest in like my 401k or Roth IRA. And before I was kind of like, oh, by the time I'm 30, I'm going to have enough money. Or by the time I'm like 35, like I'll worry about that when I'm older.
Yeah.
And I'm like, crap, there was things I could have done when I was 21 to have like that savings higher. But I mean, I've been impacted by like 2 layoffs. So it's like, as soon as I'm saving money, it's like, boom, layoff, COVID.
Something happens,
And I'm like going back into debt. And then it's like, okay, I'm barely getting on my feet. And then it's like another layoff. So I feel like I never get a chance to like catch my breath and like stay at one place. But I think this year I've been like intentionally saving a lot more and trying to be more mindful of like where I invest my money. Because I mean, our parents don't even know how to invest in that way. So I'm trying to unpack that too.
Yeah.
So the follow-up question, you started getting to it, Cesar, was talking a little bit more specifically. You mentioned the financial trauma, but what does that trauma look like in real time? You know, like for example, you mentioned like saving versus investment and like you're not a saver. I mean, at least in my understanding, like because if you are in survival mode, I mean, there was never an opportunity or a time to save, right? And for me, some of my financial traumas, I'm realizing, yo siempre me gasto el dinero que no tengo.
Those credit cards.
Not even that, bitch. I mean, that's why I don't have like credit cards. And it's like trying to figure out. Because now like the fucked up thing about credit, and people may not know this, is you need to have credit cards in order to build credit. Because no credit is still bad credit. And that's like, o sea, y no lo hago from a place of like, I have credits and assets. But I'm like, bebé, ¿dónde van a vivir esta gente after? You know, my family, like, única que puede comprar casa soy yo. I mean, right now, at least. So for me, it's always that. It's more like it's the accounts receivable, bitch. So it's like, if I know I'm about to, like, I'm getting $200 on the 17th. And I'm already doing like, oh, okay. So that means that I could buy something right now.
Yeah.
That's worth $200 because it's about to come anyway. So it's not like I never spent it.
Yeah.
Girl math. You're like, I'm getting paid. What can I spend it on?
Right, exactly. Because I'm like, if I see something cute while I'm out and about, I'm like, well, I wasn't expecting those $200 anyway. So what's up, bitch? It's like a free
That doesn't even count.
100%. Again, accounts receivable. So what other traumas do you think are kind of, maybe this is true for you or just like you hear play out?
Well, I think just the fear, like I just have this fear que voy a terminar con nada. That like my money is gonna somehow like disappear.
Okay.
And I think that could be also because for several years now, like I've been a freelancer, right? And so similar to Cesar, my experience hasn't been like layoffs necessarily, but it's more like finishing projects and then not having something, but I've been an entrepreneur, right? And so like not getting more business or not getting more work. And so like I'll have saved, like I'm a generally good saver, pero then se me van acabando, and then like same thing. And so like I feel like I haven't had this long term of like just building sin interrupción. So there's this fear of like, oh, I'm just gonna lose it. Like I'm just like one moment or one thing happening from losing all of my money, which is such an extreme. So that's the kind of like trauma that I think I'm carrying.
But I was just gonna say, you made me think about this. Like, do you remember what's the first thing you bought with like your first paycheck?
With my first
car.
paycheck.
Oh, that's cute.
Because I was moving to LA and I lived in Chicago and I didn't need a car. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna be in LA. I need a car to like get around. I didn't even like driving, to be honest, until I moved here. And that was like my first like big boy like purchase. I was like, I'm working hard for myself. Ya tengo años manteniéndome, paying my own rent, like not asking my parents for money. And that was like my first purchase. But it's expensive, like car insurance, the car payment, the interest. I feel like I wasn't like prepared for like what that was gonna cost. But that was like my big,
I don't remember my first paycheck, but I remember the first time that because my mom used to give me money for my report card.
Oh.
Entonces, if I got straight A's, I would get like
How much would you get?
depending on the grade, I would.
She's like $500.
No.
Right.
No, when
saw
I
what
was
you
in,
did there,
no,
bitch, trying to see
it
how
kept
smart
going
you
up
are.
every year. So in first grade, I would get $10 and then $20 and then $30.
You started at 10?
At 10.
Not even 5? Fuck.
She's like, my assets have grown since first grade.
Entonces I remember I bought
$1.
like a CD.
Oh.
Cute.
I bought a CD.
that's cute.
What'd you
Okay.
buy?
I bought an Usher CD.
Oh, not Usher. These are my confessions.
Yeah, I don't remember which one it was, but I bought an Usher CD and like a shirt.
That's
Oh.
cute.
And I because then I like went to the mall with my own money and bought that. And I remember it feeling remember that and feeling like really like grown.
I think similar to you, I don't remember my first paycheck, but I do remember like an important paycheck, especially as an artist and like getting contracts in the thousands at this point.
Yeah.
I took my entire family to dinner to a nice restaurant. And I said, get whatever's on the menu. And I was like, I know
And
these
what did that
people
feel like?
I was like, I know these people are not going to spend thousands of dollars worth on food. So whatever they spend, I'll still have enough money and it's okay. And fuck it. Even if I have $5 after, what it felt like, to be honest, it was ego.
Yeah.
Because I was like, yeah, bitch, I did it the way you didn't want me to do it as an artist and queer as fuck.
Yeah.
So what you gonna do now?
Yeah.
What you gonna say?
Hey.
Porque como dice el dicho, I mean, it's super bad and it's rooted in trauma. Go to therapy. On this podcast, we're discovering that I have a lot of trauma and anger through processed truth. So I'll be reaching out to a therapist. But no, I mean, truly what it is, I think in some ways it's rooted in that dicho que dice el que ríe de último ríe mejor.
Yeah.
And I always say que me quiero dar la última carcajada de la vida. And I'm like, but that's also rooted in like trauma.
Yeah,
So I'm trying to find peace.
Yeah.
No, but that's funny.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So what did your parents teach you about money? Like what have they passed down to you?
They're bad spending habits.
Yeah, I feel like there's so many bad spending habits. Even now as an adult, I'm like, why do you need this? But that's their money, but I'm still like trying to plan like ahead, you know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah.
I don't know. But one thing I wish they would have, I mean, it's not their fault, but I feel like everyone in my family's been like construction worker, a truck driver, like it's very like blue collar jobs.
Yeah.
And when I entered like my first corporate job, I didn't know how to negotiate. Like no one teaches you how to negotiate, what to know your worth. Like I got my first salary offer and I was like, oh, this is great.
Yeah.
And like, what can I do with this? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I stayed at that job for so long and I was like, Ama, I need to negotiate. And she's like, pues ay, quédate, te están pagando bien, tienes benefits, like, ¿qué más quieres? And I'm like,
no alces la voz tanto en el trabajo.
Yeah.
Like this, like,
be grateful. And it's like, we're always so used to being grateful and like being scared of losing a job and an opportunity because you don't know what's coming next.
Yeah.
And I was like, Ama, nunca voy a ganar dinero if I don't like leave a company, advocate for myself, because I should get paid $10,000, $20,000 more. And I feel like when I did that, my parents were so scared for me.
Aww.
They were like, pero te van a despedir y no vas a tener trabajo y qué vas a hacer? I'm like,
yeah.
I'm like 21, like,
right.
Yeah, you're
there's
like, I'm
enough
gonna be okay.
corporate jobs, yeah. And I like did the jump and I was like, see, I'm getting paid $20,000 more. I would have been stuck in the same like salary for like 3 years, but they're so scared of us like losing that like safety.
Yeah.
Because I feel like they stayed at the same jobs for like 20, 30 years and
100%.
are so loyal in that way.
100%. And I think a lot of it has to do, again, as someone who has been living abroad for the year, I think it's now realizing that poverty primer mundo looks very different than poverty tercer mundo. And so even the conditions, I think I've been more empathetic to the conditions that my parents grew up in because for them, poverty in America is still way better. And there's this, and I wonder, for me, I think as a Capricorn, I think I'm very ambitious. And it's kind of disheartening to not see ambition in my family.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, why are y'all so complacent? And that's, I think, another, I have a lot of anger from my family, I'm realizing. But, you know, funny, I think to the what you asked of what was passed down and what wasn't passed down.
Yeah.
What I need passed down is terrenos, girl. I'm kidding.
Not terrenos, babe. I love it. You know, I think it was a lot of the lessons of what not to do. I mean, I think there are some habits that I've picked up for sure. But my dad was really good. I mean, I don't know, because I don't know what their money is now, because the boundary that I appreciate. But my dad was really good about saving money. I do remember that. But we bought a house in 2008 that got foreclosed because of recession.
Yeah.
That's the housing crisis.
Yeah.
And so I am not don't put the tea out there, but I mean, learning lesson.
Yeah.
It's okay. My parents can hate me later. But I mean,
my parents had that too with the recession too.
Yeah, and then my dad had to go bankrupt. I mean, and that was like the solution. to go bankrupt because then your debts can go away and then you have to get rid of assets.
Yeah.
And then you have to re-spend money. It's like, I mean, I don't know if I'm saying this, I'm not a financial advisor, so do not take me on this, but from what I've experienced and lived, it felt like a reset, but then still started at a low bar because now you have a foreclosed home.
Yeah.
And so that whole situation, I think it's interesting. I do, again, feel like a lot of what I've learned has just been spending trauma of like, you know, the one thing that I don't think I realized I grew up poor until I was an adult. But then I was like, oh, so that one thing I wanted to buy myself, like now I do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I can.
Yeah.
But that also resulted in me buying a lot of unnecessary shit. So now it's that balance.
Yeah.
Of like, can I buy something that I need and I'll use for the long run?
Yeah.
And also just be a little bit more mindful. Like I shouldn't be spending so much money in los chacales, but
that's an investment. I'm kidding.
Yo estoy invirtiendo en el futuro de México.
En la economía.
En la economía. Yo estoy creando empleos en
And
México.
Sheila's like, you could invest here. Let me tell you after the show.
Yeah, and I think for me it's a little bit different. My mom was like the administrator of our finances, and she was a great saver. Pero ella nunca, like the only kind of investing that she knew about was like terrenos, like real estate. Like that's what her father taught her, is like you have to buy a home. And so that's all my mom ever knew, which is great. Like she was a great saver. My mom was super frugal, so I always grew up very frugal. Pero sí, like she managed her money well, and like we were able to buy like a home back when they were like affordable, back in the late 90s or whatever. Yes.
Back when you could buy a home with
for $100,000. It was $100,000. It was
$200,000.
Like the house that my mom bought in Riverside, which is where.
Have you appraised it?
What's that?
Have you appraised it?
Yeah, I think it's like 600 now. Yeah. So
still.
Yeah, but anyways, so that's all like the only kind of investment that my mom and my parents ever taught me about was like, oh yeah, you buy a house. And I never learned about like or like a Roth IRA or like investing like in the stock market or anything like that. And so all I knew was how to save. And I didn't know that like, oh, if you just have your money in a savings account, it's kind of just like depreciating in value, really. If you're not using it to purchase, like invest it in something else, or if you're not investing it in or something like that, it's just like depreciating in value. Pero that's all I knew. And so that's where I'm at now, is like, oh, like, and especially now, like I missed the boat to kind of buy a home when I could have a few years ago, like when it was a price that like would have made sense for me. You know, now living in LA, buying a property is like fucking
living in LA.
Crazy. Entonces, and now for me, it's like, well, I'm not going to buy. So now I'm really like trying to learn about, okay, so what do I do with my savings? How do I invest it in a way? Because it's not a good financial decision right now for me to buy an actual property. So that means that my money that I have been sitting aside supposedly to buy a home, it's just been sitting, depreciating in value. So now I'm like, oh shit, now I got to shift and learn about these things that that no one ever taught me about, right? Which is like really investments and things like that.
That's real.
Yeah.
I love the comment of like living in LA. Pues ahí está la puerta.
The what?
No, but I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. But it's like my mom's like, ¿por qué no compras una casa? I'm like,
I know, and that's what my mom.
Like, yeah, if I lived in the Midwest, I could. They're like,
right. My mom wants
more affordable, but I don't want to spend my money.
Right. She so badly wants me to buy a home because that's her understanding of wealth. That's how she lived it. And so, but now, yeah, we're realizing like, man, it's just like not. So it's doesn't feel like a good financial decision.
Oh, that's real. And also that message goes to all the transplants. It's just that Cesar had to bear that comment, but it's for all the transplants. Just kidding. That's hella real. Okay, quick question. What is a Roth IRA?
A Roth IRA?
What you say? What's it called?
Roth IRA.
What is that?
Wait, is it Roth IRA or Roth IRA? I don't know.
Well, I don't know. People say it differently.
Hola, y las muy expertas.
Pues mira,
I was like, damn, what is that?
Pues I opened one up and it's for retirement. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm just you put money.
It's a retirement account that's like separate from a 401k. So it's your own, and it has like tax benefits. Where you can take it out without it being taxed. So that's like the benefit of it.
I'm gonna look at my benefits.
But the benefit of it is you started early on. Like the earlier you started, the better, because it's compound interest, right?
Now, do you like grandfather into other forms of employment? Let's say your employer doesn't offer that program. If it's on your own.
No, it's on your own.
It's on your own. It's completely independent. And then you can invest up to $7K a year of your own money, and there's a cap on it. And the reason there's a cap on it is because it has these tax benefits. So like they don't want you like it having to be like you can put whatever. So I mean I think it's a really important move for anybody is to open up a Roth IRA.
Yeah, I opened it like a few years ago.
Yeah, no, that's honestly that's so wonderful.
My 401k, I didn't
open up my Roth until I was in like my early 30s, I think.
Yeah, my first corporate job, I was like, what do I do with this 401k? Like I never knew how to like manage it. And I had one, then I had another one, and one of my friends was like, you need to like combine them or like actually like go in there and like figure out what's gonna work for you and what's not. But
talking about financial traumas, I'm just laughing because it's the first time. I mean, this is like the job that I've been at for a couple of years. This is the first time I've ever had a 401k.
Yeah.
And I feel like everyone talks about it and you kind of know what it is, but don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And the first time, like I think it was the first quarter that I got my statement.
Yeah.
Bitch, I thought it was an invoice. I just like rooted in so much trauma, bills, y que no sé qué, living paycheck by paycheck. So I was like, oh, who do I owe this much money to?
You're like, nunca me llegó.
What? It's like, aquí le debo tanto dinero. And then somebody was like, bitch, that's not an invoice. It's how much you have in your...
savings account.
Hey, she got some coin.
But sometimes I'm like, I want that money now.
Yeah.
You can apply for that, I think.
But I'm like, what if I don't make it at 65?
I know.
I could have been traveling.
So ain't nobody gonna make it. But can't you like take out money on your 401k?
Yeah, but they tax
you can, but
so
should not. You should
much.
not. But I think if I'm pretty sure, and we'll verify this, but out of your Roth, you can take it out without it being taxed. That's where we have to verify that.
But it's like
it is after tax. So
there
are some rules. You can borrow.
Oh, and you borrow on money.
It's like if you're gonna buy a home or something, there's like certain emergency. There's certain like
exceptions,
something, right?
Yeah, but there's tax benefits for sure. But I forget exactly what it is. But
well, today we're going to also learn something about financial planning. Again, we are not certified financial planners. We're talking from a lived experience. Pero si te choca, te checa.
We all need help.
I'm sorry. I was like, I don't know if I used that idiom correctly, pero it was funny. I think it's now time for our favorite little segment. ¿Saben cuál es? Y ¿sabías que? Oh, fuck. Amigas, if you see me making faces throughout this episode, again, remember that I fell and my tailbone is still healing, so my bad. Pero ¿sabías que that in the beginning of 2024, there was a study that was conducted that revealed that 51.8% of American wealth is actually within the boomer generation, that in comparison, millennials own only about 9.4 total of the wealth in the US. And in terms of population distribution, there is almost an equal share of millennials and baby boomers in the US. O sea, parejitos, and we're still making only 9.4% of the wealth in the US. So when you tell me, boomer, that I'm not working hard enough, I am, como dijo la Beyonce, I am being overworked and underpaid. Quote, hit 16 carriages. What are your thoughts on any hot takes on the statistic?
I mean, it just sheds light on exactly what living in America is like, right? And not just in America, but just like the cost of living is crazy. Right. I mean, inflation, todo is like, and I feel like if you didn't, especially as millennials, if you didn't like buy a property like X years ago, and like you're kind of like, I feel a little like fucked in that way. I'm like, está difícil la cosa.
It's also like, I feel like the salaries we have now isn't enough. Like, I'm like, back then, I feel like if whatever I got paid now, and my dad had that, we'd be living a whole different lifestyle. You know what I mean? But I feel like, my mom's like, ¿en qué te gastas en dinero? And I'm like, girl, like food, rent, traveling. But like, it's like all the essentials and then taxes. I'm like, traveling, dinner.
No, it's like neta, salaries just have not gone up. They have not gone up that much. Like I remember the last time I had like a more official corporate job was maybe like 6 years ago. And I'm looking at what people are paying for jobs, and I'm like, damn, like this is like a high skilled job, and the salary has not increased very much.
It doesn't
but
like add up.
The prices are crazy though when you think about real estate, when you think about lo que compramos en las tiendas, all the things.
100%. I mean, the cost of living has increased by a lot, and there hasn't been like a moment, and that's why I still get mad about people or get mad about folks who don't agree with like the $15 an hour minimum. You know what I mean? It's like also the poverty line hasn't been reassessed since the 1960s. So the poverty line, I mean, fact check me on that, but from last I remember, one thing
this whole episode has like fact checks at the bottom.
I mean, I remember that being a very big contention in social work school because we were like, what the fuck? Like, why hasn't the poverty line been reassessed?
Yeah.
Particularly now, especially after 2 recessions, y que no sé qué, que no sé cuándo, and like a housing crisis. O sea, a lot has happened in the macro economy that I think it's definitely necessary to do that reassessment because a lot of programming gets then based on that baseline. Yeah. That's how GF funds get put out. And GF funds is general support or GS funds. That's how, food stamps get figured out. That's how a lot of social programming gets determined based on this cap. And if you haven't done a reassessment of your baseline, then how do you know you're actually servicing people or not,
Yeah.
So it's so frustrating.
Such a great point. Yeah.
But that's real.
It's like I need more money. Where's my money? I'm kidding.
Bitch, you need to stop traveling. That's what you need.
No, because even then I feel like...
Or figure out how your work pays for it.
No, I feel like with my first couple of jobs, I was like, oh, I'm gonna be able to help my sister pay for college, help my parents more. And like, I was doing that a little bit, but then it's like layoffs, all like life, all this shit happens where you're like, fuck, I thought it was gonna be a lot easier. Like, how did my parents do it back in the day? Like supporting 2 kids, a house, like all this stuff. But now my sister could work, so we could both support our parents. But
that's cute.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah.
I think also, and I don't know if this is true, but the frustrating thing I always add, and this is, I don't know if it's a little off topic or not, and I don't think so, but just in a different way, I always say that white people go to university to find themselves.
Yeah.
And the children of immigrants go to university to save their families.
Wait, literally.
You know what I mean? Like, so often and so much was it, at least for me, like ingrained that education was the gateway out of poverty, and like it's not, especially with all of the other determining factors that we just talked about that impact the economy. But to be honest, I think like that's why I got very frustrated with my sister because she didn't finish school. And more than anything, it wasn't even like, and this is so fucked up because it wasn't like, oh my God, you should go to school. But it was more like, bitch, now all the responsibility is on me.
So do you feel like, are you feeling the pressure of like having to take care of your family then? Financially? Like, is that a responsibility of yours?
100%. I think I've said, I mean, yes and no.
Yeah.
I have definitely sat with sometimes the fact that I have more privilege than my family. And that's been interesting to grapple with because again, even all I mentioned, like, it's not in my DNA to abandon them. It's just not who I am. I think I'm just really frustrated by the situations and how to navigate that and all the things that work has implied.
Yeah.
But like, for example, my siblings who I mentioned in another episode are significantly younger than me. And so they ask me for allowance.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bitch, ain't nobody ever gave me one. Like, what you mean, allowance? And it's always like the smallest, the stupidest things ever. I love my little brother. Sorry. I mean, Daniel won't see this. But I love my little brother. But he was like the other day, Richard, can you Venmo me $5 for like a Subway? And I was like, bitch, cook.
Yeah.
Like,
Also, a Subway. What are you gonna get at Subway for $5?
That's what I'm saying.
A cookie?
How much is Subway nowadays?
And you know,
like
and you know what's
expensive.
sad? And you know what's sad? The thing that breaks my heart the most, I think, and it's funny that that you mentioned that. But if it is just a cookie, like damn, now my little brother's just eating a cookie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can't just send $5.
You know what I mean? And I'm just kind of like and I like to think in my mind, again, I don't know what the financial situation is for them either or like that. But I just like to think that I'm like, maybe he had $10 already saved and he just needed $5, in my mind, because I understand how expensive it is. So to quickly wrap up what you asked, Sheila, yes and no. Yes, in the sense of like, I know I just have a lot more privilege. And I know that my dad is the only source of income for my family. I mean, my sister works for her own and my 19-year-old brother works for his own. But still, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I also know, and my dad is also a truck driver. And being a transportation planner, I know the implications of his field. And being in the field that I am because of the privilege that I have, I like to think that I advocate for the blue-collar workers who are in this field. Because I'm like, that's my dad, bitch. Yeah. Like, there's an urgency.
Same.
You know what I mean?
My dad worked in construction and truck driving too.
Yeah, so it's like, I can't be in conversations about transportation where everyone wants to talk about electrification. And it's like, but what about the truck workers that are dependent on this?
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother episode, but sorry. So yes, and.
Yeah.
I think, and I'm just afraid, based on my crying from the last episode, that this is going to happen faster than I expected. And I don't know if I'm ready.
Your responsibility. And you're like, okay, well, I better get it together.
100%, which is why I left Mexico for a year.
Yeah.
I didn't save any money, to be real. I was out here spending it.
Yes, we can't save here.
But at least I got an R&R, bitch. You know, I did some rest of recovery to come back and prepare for that. So,
Yeah.
I'm trying to help my parents con lo que puedo. Like, I pay the phone bill. Like, if we travel, I try to cover some of the costs. I mean, I wish I could cover everything, but it's like poquito a poquito. I'm trying to like help out when I can, but it's so tough because I'm like, you want to be able to do everything for them.
Yeah, and for me, I feel like I do have the privilege that I don't necessarily need to, like, I'm not going to need to necessarily, I don't know, who knows what will happen, but like, as far as I know, I won't need to help my mom financially, but I feel guilty because I feel like she worked really hard to like save money and all these things, and I got to go to college, and I've done a lot of beautiful things that have been very, easy thing with savings and shit, not like that much, but like, I feel like I've done a lot of fulfilling things. I have a beautiful impact on this world, but haven't necessarily like made me like super wealthy, you know? And I'm like, and I kind of wish, I'm like, damn, she worked so hard so I could get this education. And I feel a little guilty that I don't have more savings so that I felt more comfortable being the one that's always taking my mom out, you know, and things like that. So part of me now is like, damn, like, should I transition to really focusing on making my money moves in order for me to be taking my mom on more trips and things like that, that like, she doesn't, like, I feel very privileged that she doesn't need me to do that, but I wish I could and felt really comfortable doing it sin pensarlo. And so that is something that feels like something I would like to do. And I know I don't need to, but I do feel a little guilty that I got to pursue doing beautiful things that brought me fulfillment, but yeah, didn't necessarily make my bank account like, you know, like super, super big. So, yeah. ¿Qué es ese ruido?
Honestly, yeah.
Las paletas.
Productora.
Paletitas, mis paleteras. ¿Cómo están?
Muy bien.
Qué bien.
What do you have for us?
Primero que nada, ahí en casita se preguntarán, no sé si se dan cuenta que nunca pagamos por las paletas. Es que a nosotras no nos pagan.
Puras paletas fiadas
Son
en
fiadas.
este lugar. Las muchachas.
Pagamos en otros.
Las muchachas se ven
En
ricas.
otras formas.
Pagan en otras formas. Las muchachas se ven ricas, pero no están todavía. Soon to be. Soon to be.
Soon to be.
Pero sabes que tengo mucha riqueza en otras maneras.
La verdad que
Yeah,
sí.
true.
Algo que quería tocar con ustedes, un tema que quería tocar. Primero de todo, nada más tenemos un tipo de paletas y todos se la van a tragar porque
¿Es de crema?
son fiadas y
Fiadas.
yo se las traje
Oh,
con amor.
perfect. It won't stain my.
¿De crema?
De
crema?
coco.
La favorita de Ana Sheila.
¿Coco de crema?
Coco de crema.
There you go, bro.
They're good. The coco one is good.
¿No te
Luego
gusta
la
coco?
saborea la... No, la verdad es que son las últimas.
Oh, she
De
got the
veras.
big one?
De veras, de veras.
Ah,
son
yo
las
quiero
últimas.
yo quiero chiquita.
Oh, no.
I already licked it.
Nada más una chupadita.
You lick
Ay, no la puedo abrir.
Unique. Ten, que no me gusta el coco tampoco.
Algo que quería...
Ay, ¿no te queda una para ti?
No me gusta el coco.
Una lambadita.
No,
Chiquita.
muérdele
no
tú,
puedo.
güey. No, muérdele so I have half of it.
Oh,
No le puedo abrir. Oh, ya.
con cariño.
Ay, no. Esa está pegajosa.
Ahí está.
Está pega.
Vamos.
Gracias.
Pega.
Está pegajosa. Bueno, algo que quería hablar, quería comentar. Ay, güey, está fría. Es, yo no fui al colegio. I didn't go to like a university. I have 2 A's. I went to, I did multiple things. I went to culinary school. I started real estate.
Okay, chef.
Bitch, you know how to cook?
I know how to cook good.
Damn, having one for dinner.
No nos invitan.
¿Por qué no nos has invitado, güey?
Pues vengan.
Pero será para dos.
Mira mi esposo allá.
Ah,
¿Cocinó bien?
No nos invites, no nos invites.
No, pero algo que quería decir es de que para mí, yo me mudé de NorCal a Los Ángeles y pues me mudé, trabajé en NorCal, trabajé de mesero y de gerente de un restaurante y me pagaron súper bien y and my savings went up and I was super just positive on savings. I was very comfortable. And then I moved down
Yeah.
and my fucking savings disappeared.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I was in debt. I'm in debt. I'm currently in debt.
Yeah.
With credit card debt. And I'm like, how in the world did this happen? Like,
Yeah.
I just moved 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And I am in debt. And it's something that I was raised not to be in debt and
Yeah.
like always to save and be
Yeah.
very careful with my money. And I always pride myself in being very conscious and just on top of my finances. But, for a time I used to beat myself up and like, oh my God, you're doing things wrong. You're like screwing up, blah, blah, blah. But then I have to like readjust that mindset. And it's like the reason why I'm in debt. Yeah, I could have been a little smarter with my finances. But my investment might have not been college, but
Yeah.
my investment is my move to LA.
To
We're in this
pursue your
studio,
dream,
we're
¿verdad?
doing this exactly because of what I want to do, because of my
Right.
dream. And I can't discount what I'm doing now and the opportunities I have now because of the debt that I'm in, you know? And I am confident that I will get out of this debt and I will, eventually be a homeowner and have savings and live comfortably and be able to help my family and friends out in time. But it's all a stepping stone. Like when you go into that deep negative mindset, you'll just continue going down that hole.
Yeah.
But you gotta step aside and be grateful for what you have, even if it is what put you in debt.
Yeah.
And just like live in the moment and just believe that you're gonna get out of it, you know?
Yeah, I think that's a really beautiful reflection, Joel, and I think that's important. I really resonate with that. And like, like what have what did you invest in? What was that investment in? And for me, the same thing. It's like, yeah, my savings could be bigger, but I invested in doing things that brought a lot of richness and beauty and fulfillment to my life, and that is so valuable, right? And like I wouldn't take that back and done like a job that paid me a lot of money or that I continued, because I was in a corporate, I was in tech, I was a product manager, and I was getting paid over like a good amount of money in 6 figures, and I left that to do things that brought me like a lot more fulfillment, connection to community. And that's how I started to connect back with my Latina community, was when I left that. Before that, I didn't have a connection to that. I mean, I did, obviously, but like started meeting creators and small business owners, people and connections that bring me so much more richness. And that they're the reason why I'm even in this position right now, because of that. And I wouldn't trade back 5 years of having stayed in the corporate and just having my soul not feel fulfilled.
And at the end of the day, it's all a gamble.
Not true.
Community and money and where you're at, it's all a gamble. You know what I mean? You could, like la calaca te agarra mañana, and like what you go out with is no money.
Exactly.
It's what you come in with.
And my therapist,
Exactly.
and I was really stressed recently, right? Because I was like, oh shit, like ya no me voy a hacer vieja y no voy a tener da. And then I've been making moves, and we'll talk more about that because I have some tips to recommend on it. But my therapist was like, pero where do you have wealth? Because I talked to my therapist about it, and they're like, but where do you have wealth right now? And that was such a beautiful reminder of like the wealth that I've created. Maybe it's not all reflected in money, but it's reflected in all the other things that I've been doing.
Yeah, I agree with you. Oh
no, I was just gonna say I like to think of wealth as, I measure wealth in opportunities, not currency.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful way to think of it.
Yeah, so if I can make opportunities for myself, then I'm wealthy, you know? And so then I end up in positions where, like right now, for example, without going into details, I had a moment at work where I felt like I'm gonna go somewhere else. But it wasn't because it was like I was fighting anybody. It was just out of ego, you know what I mean? Because I was like, y'all like benefiting from my idea. You know what I mean? Like, just a little like an ego, like a petty shit. But I was like, you know what? What a privileged place to be, that's my fight at work. You know what I mean?
No te estás muriendo de hambre.
Exactly.
You can advocate for yourself too.
Yeah.
Which it's the most beautiful part.
I did. I told them, I was like, look, if I'm made director in 2 years,
me voy.
Y la verdad, I want to say, like, Nalgona, like, whatever your financial situation is, I think that from knowing you a few years now, like you've done such beautiful things as well. And there's such a richness to the work that you've done.
It's similar to what you said, I think, you know what I mean? That it's been this work that has been so fulfilling.
Yeah.
And it has been so constant. I mean, in some ways, not a lot of people can say that they've been organizing for 17 years.
Yeah.
And it's looked differently and around different issues. But I love what I do. I mean, I loved being, and thank you for bringing up, right, school is not the path or not the only pathway
Yeah.
to being where we are and just to whatever success looks like for people. I'm just grateful and mindful that I also enjoyed school. I mean, that's also a part of who I am. I'm a very big nerd, and it's not surprising that I work in academia now. Like, I get paid to read and write. And so
Amazing.
I know, right? And so I'm also lucky that I love what I do as like an urban planner. And I'm grateful that I also have gotten to manage 2 careers over the last 7 years. Like that's been, what I do as an artist, and Nalgona was born out of that, So I'm grateful for that, for those blends. So
And thank you for reminding us too about like, sometimes I get like, I feel like ¿cómo se dice en español? Like
You get bogged down, like you get.
Yeah, I'm like always thinking like, oh, I could have done this. I could have had this if I would have stayed home. But then I'm like, if I wouldn't have moved to LA, I wouldn't have chased my dreams. I wouldn't have been going for what I wanted to go for.
Yeah.
But it did get me into debt too. Coming to LA got me into debt too. Because it was like, I was leaving by myself. I didn't want to ask my parents for money because I didn't want them to have like the financial burden of like having to like mantenerme. And I was like, no, I'm going to pay my rent. I got a job, moved to LA. But I feel like, I don't have a house and I could have bought a house back home, but I'm like doing acting, doing writing. I'm doing other stuff that I wouldn't have done back home. So I feel like that's kind of where I take a step back and I reflect on like the other blessings that I have.
Listen, bitches, not all of you guys are gonna make it, and that's okay. But 5 out of 10 of you are gonna make it. So just fucking take a chance.
Follow your dreams,
Take a
travel,
chance, take a chance.
have experiences.
No,
it's okay to also. No, I love it. It's also okay to repivot and change your dreams.
Absolutely.
Yes, you can always
Period.
change. It's never too late.
Real estate,
Not about-
cooking, fucking electricity. Like I was like
No,
all
it's
over
because
the
social
place.
media fucked up people out here because they creen
That's
pinche
true.
experts and whatever. It's like, bitch, you're not an expert. You just got visibility. That's
It's
not
trial
an
and error.
expert.
Trial and
Not
error.
even that. I'm like, some of y'all don't even have talent.
Bueno, I always say my welcome. Let me take
Even the
paleta.
brown ones here in
¿Me la
LA.
llevo?
Not you,
Muchas gracias.
De nada. Bye.
not these two.
Besitos. We love
I'm like,
you.
si estos cabrones no tuvieran
Al rato te
talento.
pagamos.
Ay, pinches broke bitches.
Ay. I'm like, si estos cabrones no tuvieran talento, no estuviera aquí. Estas sí tienen talento, pero hay otras compañeras de ustedes que, bebé.
Oh, girl. But you brought up a good point
sorry.
earlier that it's an experience.
Mira qué bonito. I
It's an
know,
experience that I
qué
had when
cute.
I'm like,
When-
I don't hate her, bitch. Las miradas que le hago es para las señoras en la casa. You know,
Es
they
pura
know me.
carrilla.
Es pura carrilla.
We love each other, so we throw carrilla. But one experience that I had when I first went to college, I like left my little hometown, went to a city, and what you said, like I feel like white people go to school just to like find themselves, and I felt like I was me and another Latina. We were like the only Mexicans in our dorm, and it was all white people, and I felt like a lot of them didn't actually like have to like intern anywhere or like have a job to like pay. Like I feel like my freshman year of college, I was working at a retail store, working at a restaurant, interning for free just to get experience because I'm like, I don't have the family connections in corporate America to like find a job after college, or like my dad doesn't know like someone at like an advertising agency to be like, hey, get my son in.
Yeah.
So I feel like I had to make my own path. I always had to like do 3 extra things where like I had a lot of white friends that just kind of like,
Fell
my parents
into
are
it.
paying
Not fell into it,
my
but
dorm, my tuition. Like I don't have to worry about anything. And I was like, I mean, that's nice. Like if I had that blessing, I would take advantage of it too. But I'm like, I feel like I had to always work to kind of like make my network in this corporate life, which I don't know, I feel like a lot of other people don't have to do.
Bitch,
But we're always hustling. We're always trying to survive. And
I thought I was balling with my little 300 check a month from work study, bitch. I was like,
me and my corporate job, like, oh, I could buy stuff.
Right.
But I was always like paycheck to paycheck in college. But I
And then
had to work.
Going to state out of school, I was like, oh, I gotta buy the Tide.
You got a what?
I gotta buy the laundry detergent. I not the brand, my bad. Like not the la medicina or just like the little things.
Even like groceries, like little things. When I had my first apartment, like my mom lived like 40 minutes away. So once in a while she would drive up
And do your
and me
laundry.
traía comida. No, she would bring me like Tupperware food and like freeze like chile
of course,
rellenos,
of course.
free stuff. And me and my roommate would eat it like in 2 days.
Yeah.
But me visitaba and like would bring me stuff. And I was like, and sometimes I would call her like, yo, I need like $100 to pay like the Wi-Fi bill. Like I was like little things, but I tried my best to like have like 3 jobs at once to like
100%.
not burden them even more.
I'm glad that you brought that up because I think it's a perfect segue to our next question. Have you ever borrowed or lent family and friends money? And has it ever been sour, or what is that? Because even I think what we've all disclosed, there's a lot of financial trauma. So I even think asking for help is like a whole situation. So what has been your experience around lending or borrowing money?
I've done it very little. I've really only did it con mi hermano. My brother asked me first, back when I had my corporate job, and he was still estaba in school with his wife.
I would too. She's had 6 figures.
But nowadays I need 200K.
I know, for real. No, for real. And yeah, so he asked me, I think for like $1,000 or $1,500 or something like that. And I was like, yeah, like that felt easy for me at the time.
Me prestas after the show. I'm like, no,
that was our past life.
I know.
Ay, pero tienes savings, dijo.
No,
At Christmas, those adult tickets.
She's the one with the credit card.
Yeah, we'll pay you later, girl. We'll pay you later.
So yeah, and I mean, that felt easy for me at the time. And then, later, actually, I asked my brother, like, for something similar too.
Like, and so now she's asking for money.
No, it was a few years. I'm okay now. but yeah, like I wasn't working I forget what I was like doing, but yeah, and I asked him, and and it was it was easy. It was like it just felt like equitable or whatever, and it wasn't a big amount. It was like $5,000, something like that. So yeah, we both kind of trusted each other, and yeah, I mean that was about it.
I love that.
Yeah.
I feel like, my parents have always been super supportive. Like, my dad works really hard, and there's been times where like the recession, where it was like struggling and all that stuff. But I feel like in college, like siempre me apoyaban, and I knew I could fall back on them, which is also like a big privilege. But I tried my hardest not to.
Yeah, same.
And like not bother them, because I was like, I need them to focus on my sister and their financial issues, and like she's gonna go to college soon, so I don't want them to have to like think about helping me pay rent. But when I did lose my job for the first time, like that was like a big shock to me. 'Cause I remember I was in Mexico, and I was like, I lost my job, and I was like crying to my sister, because I'm like, I just signed a new lease for a studio apartment. Like, what am I gonna do? Where am I gonna get money?
Yeah.
And my mom was like, well, you're healthy, you're okay. Like, you know so many people, like you've always found a job, bounced around, like you're gonna find a job, just like enjoy this time. And I was like, and it was during COVID, and I was like, wait, you're okay with it? Like, I didn't want to stress you guys out.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I asked for money like in years. Like, hey, I need like $1,000 to reach my rent.
Yeah.
But I pay them back like right after. But I know like if they need money, I will lend my dad whatever he needs. Like, I will literally like take all my savings out if they really need it.
Yeah.
But I'm also trying to save in case there is an emergency, like knock on wood, like I could be that help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I have one friend, a really good friend who works in tech as well.
Yeah.
And he shared with me how much he makes. And I'm like, oh, hell no. And so every time I go to the Bay Area and I see him, I'm like, bitch, it's on you.
Take me out. Take me out.
I'm like, the tab is on you. And I very unapologetically say it. But I also love him very dearly. And I could only say that to him for sure.
Yeah. But you also learn a lot from those friends. Like, I have some friends that are like very wealthy, and I'm always trying to ask them like, what advice? You know what I mean? A lot of times it's like generational wealth, which I'm like, we're slowly trying to build that generational wealth, because like our parents are also figuring it out.
So what advice would you give me?
And I'm like,
I don't have a rich granddaddy.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn, bitch.
But I mean, yeah, we're trying to build generational wealth.
But I do think that do think that being a billionaire should be a crime, by the way.
Yeah.
But that's another topic.
In agreement.
No, but I agree with you. I have a very... In terms of lending my sister money, always, and no questions asked. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I feel like now that I'm older, we're both older, we know that we have each other. Yeah. And we can have honest conversations about money. And of course, with my nephew, I'm like, I never say no to my nephew.
Yeah.
So of course, with my sister, no conditions asked. My parents, también, I mean, the only thing that I ask, and this is something I think we've had to work through, I'm like, just let me know.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because I appreciate, again, going back to the Capricorn, like, I don't know, it's because I just need to know, but like, okay, cool, I just need to know, because then I need to figure out how I'm moving money around, or how I'm budgeting, or what it is. But like, I haven't got into a place, and I think something, learning from folks, and just really thinking about building savings in general.
Yeah.
As that preparation for like long-term planning, right? And I think we will talk about that after as well.
Yeah.
But Yeah, I have one really good friend that I love dearly, who I definitely have been in situations where I'm like, yo, I'm definitely short for rent, like $200.
Yeah.
And the thing is, what I'm grateful for, that it's not even like I don't have the money. It's like I get paid tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
need to make a payment now, or I
Yeah.
get paid next week, you know? And he's always hella down. I think sometimes I'm also mindful of like how don't want to exhaust certain people.
Right.
But at least with this one person in particular, we have a relationship where we've just known each other for such a long time, and he knows, and you know, there's an integrity. And I think has then made me be much more open
Yeah.
about finance in general.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna share kind of
Yeah.
what, you know, between us. You know, I had to give Caesar. I had to give Cesar money, and I was like, "Girl, so I've been traveling a lot, and I still have a lot to travel. So it's just really, really expensive. Can I give you this other half this day?" And since I was like, "Yeah, dope," and I was like, "Okay." I think before I wouldn't be able to just be open.
Yeah.
Because also community, I think, understands. And when you build it, you're like, "Oh shit, okay, we all have."
We're all
Yeah.
like in the
situa-
same.
Right. And so
Yeah.
it's como que me haces el paro, and just
Sí.
being more transparent about it. And usually if you're
Yeah.
in community with people, they'll be like, okay, I'm down, or maybe
Yeah.
not. Can you give me this much instead? There's
Yeah.
just an openness to it.
Totally. I was going to say, yeah, like 2023 was a really rough year for me. Like 2022 was a great year for me. In 2023, I really hit rock bottom. Like my business just completely, like I spent a lot of my savings. My business did not go well. And it was a scary time. And that's why 2024 has been me rebuilding, like thinking more strategically, starting to work on like a financial plan, like very much rebuilding. So, but I think actually because of what I went through in 2023, even though this is very much a rebuilding year, I also feel very like generous. Like I feel very generous. And I think it's what I realize is the way to get out of like scarcity is finding a way to like work from a place of generosity and abundance, even when you are feeling like you don't have that. You can't get out of scarcity with a scarcity mindset. Like, but it's really hard, right? But si sientes que no tienes how are you going to be able to like actually feel like you do? And you have to, and I think what really helped is going back to like, where do I do have wealth? And that's honestly what helped me get out of the place that I was in, both actually financially, but also like mentally, was actually changing my mindset on the wealth that I did have and the abundance that I did have. And it was sourcing from that energy that opportunities started to come, that I felt more comfortable asking for help and leaning in on my community. And so I also, even though I'm very much rebuilding and I'm trying to be very smart with my money and my savings, I also feel very generous. Like if friends really need me to help them, I feel very comfortable offering that help because I know what it's like to struggle, you know?
Okay. Adele's about to go on break for like 10 years. Sheila. She has saved my life from like major depression. I
No,
also,
but there's like an amount that I feel I feel like comfortable like sharing with friends, you know?
And to your point, I think like just again going back to the communication and being like, again, it's not and it's funny when I said it at the beginning, but it's kind of like real where it's like, mira, no le puedo dar un putazo así de $2,000 ahorita.
No.
But on payment plan, I can do, bitch, and I can commit to that.
Right.
I've done that. You know, I pay my mom's credit card. That's how I help. I'm like, I'll send the payment.
Yeah.
But usually she just books all her travels now because I'm like, that's my boundary of like, I can't travel with you.
Yeah.
So if you want to go and visit your family, totally down, put it on the card and I just pay for it. But little follow-up question about, we were talking and lending and borrowing. What is your boundary between like, when you lend money and it's not paid back?
Yeah.
Like, do you at some point see it as a gift, or are there certain people or certain situations where you don't expect it back? Like, how do you handle that part?
I mean, it just hasn't happened. I haven't had that many situations with it, right? But I think con mi hermano.
I was gonna say, I laughed that I turned over here and I'm like, this is not a conversation.
No, con mi hermano, I think he might have taken like less than a year. And like it was, like I said, like the amount felt like it was small enough where like I'm like, yeah, take your time. I mean, if it was
your life was nice. Huh?
if it was more than a year, then yeah. And I mean, if it wasn't my brother, like if it was like a
100%.
friend, I would be like I would expect it in a few months, you know, like that's
yeah.
I feel like that
I think
a few months is
or at
like,
least the communication about it. Like don't turn a
and it's got to
blind
be someone I really like have a real.
100%.
I had someone that like barely knew me ask me for money And
Oh,
they
no,
just
that's
and
when
they
it
just
gets-
thought I had money, you know, because they're
Okay.
like, oh, Ana Sheila, like, da, 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 da. And I'm like, girl, you don't even know me. How do I know you're gonna even
Right.
pay me back? I'm like, no.
100%.
So I like did not lend her money.
Yeah.
Where did that come
You're
from?
like, I never got your text.
I'm like, who did you already run through all the people that are your good friends? That also concerned me. The fact that you're asking me when you don't really even know me that well makes me concerned about like your reputation with your close friends. You know?
I feel like I've had friends ask me for like, especially when we were like in
$100.
college or
Oh.
like just getting out of college. Like, I remember I had a few friends like, hey, can you send me $50 because like I need to pay something or my card went down. Like, what is it, overdraft? And I was like, oh yeah, here. Like, but I wouldn't like. I don't know. I feel like I didn't need to like follow up to get it back. Like we would
Yeah.
go out and it kind of evened out.
100%.
But I feel like with a lot of friends, we're just so transparent. I feel like transparency is key because I feel like a lot of times we don't talk about like
exactly. That's
financial
where I'm in now.
issues, how to, and I feel like I'm so grateful that I have like friends that like are a year or two older than me that like have taught me how to like negotiate and like be on
different
top of
things,
stuff
yeah.
and like how to work the corporate life and get ahead of it. Because I feel like if not, I would have been like at the same level. I don't know.
Yeah.
100%. And you know what? I appreciate you alluded to something that also how much of just in the culture, it's kind of also become embedded, at least as a practice of knowing, at least when you realize that, you know, we either first generation, child of immigrants,
Yeah.
Latino folks, whatever you want to say, as we're getting older, a lot of these trauma responses are becoming practices or embedded in the way. Like exactly what you said, I feel like I have many friends where it's like, and I feel like it's happening even among us, where it's like, oh, I'll grab it. Okay, cool. You know, or I'll grab it next time.
Yeah,
or
like I got you
yeah,
next
I got
time.
you.
Don't worry about it. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I know you're gonna take me to dinner or whatever. Like you
Yeah.
got my drink. And that's become so embedded into who we, like a DNA of some sort of like our adulthood.
Yeah.
It's interesting that in some ways, one could argue that it comes from these financial traumas. Damn, you know what? I really love how these episodes, they start like, yeah, they're fun and silly and stupid.
And then we get
Into it, you know what I mean? And I feel like there's so much unpacking that happens. Well, with that being said, Paletitas, estamos llegando otra vez al final de otro episodio.
Already?
Ya
wow,
sé.
that happened quick.
We still need the
Sé.
tips, girl. We need to
Right, no, I mean,
joking,
pues, no, pues sí, pero para terminar, our last segment is around, if hosts want to share, I'll ask the 3 questions and then whatever folks want to answer. But financial goals, what do you want to accomplish in the financially in the near future, in the distant future? And is there anything you want to learn more about finances or money management? So I thought that was a perfect.
Yeah, I mean, I
place
think
to-
where I'm at now is, like I started to share a little earlier, is what I realized is like, it doesn't make sense for me to buy a property, at least like in the next year or so. So now what I'm wanting to learn about is how to invest my savings into like potential funds that will give me back a return so that I'm like saving money to potentially invest in something else and potentially invest in real estate. But I don't know much about how to allocate like my savings. So that's my goal for this year, is to like allocate my savings into something that will bring me a return. So it's not just in my savings account. Yeah.
But what are some of the tips?
So, I mean, I think the first step is like, I mean, hitting your, having that emergency fund, right? So you should have, I think at least 6 months of like your expenses, if not 6 to 12 months of your expenses is like your emergency fund. So before you even, so before you even invest,
Estamos, girl. No te preocupes.
before you even
I'm gonna get
invest,
6 friends. 1 month.
1 month, 2.
yeah, so,
Yo, empezar la cundina.
yeah. So before you even invest in anything else, like make sure you have that covered. So that's step number 1.
Yeah.
Well, fuck. What's the step
But
before
also,
what?
get a high yield savings account.
Oh yeah, that's yeah.
That's like key.
So your savings should be in a high yield savings account.
You'll make money.
So ally, and right now that's one thing that is high is the savings interest. It's like over 4% with different. So like for example, Ally. What's another one? Where do you have your
American Express.
American Express? Do they have what
Something
percentage?
with an M too.
What percentage is there?
It's like 4 point something.
Yeah. So
Like I didn't know about it until my friend was like, "Dude, you make money like every month," and I'm like, "Oh, I'm making like $60-$80 a month just having my money."
Just having your money.
Yeah, I'm having my money there.
Yeah. So that's
Capital One has one too.
So that's step 1.
Sponsor us, American Express.
¿Qué más? I mean, opening a Roth IRA. I think everybody should, once you have that, the emergency savings, I think another step is investing in your own retirement account.
Yeah.
And invest. And if you can, investing the maximum that you can contribute is the next.
Yeah. No, I opened one too, and I put the max right away because I was scared.
And I mean,
was
I haven't done that. I mean, for example, in 2023, I didn't invest in it because I lost most of, not all.
And you could pause it, right? Like if you can't.
You don't have to. I mean, you just leave it. You don't do it. Yeah. And so this year, like I was like, okay, I'm building again, and I can and do it. So I would recommend that. Oh, well, I really recommend this tool called Financial Gym. It's a service. And they help you you tell them like, these are all my goals. And it's great because like I've worked with a financial advisor before, which I do recommend to folks when you feel comfortable with that.
This is not sponsored by them.
Or maybe. We'll find out.
That's cute.
I've worked with a financial advisor before, pero normalmente te cobran like $1,000 to $2,000 a year, which is like, it's not that much, but you have to pay it up front, right? And so I've done that before. But this year, as I'm rebuilding, I was like, oh, I'm not ready to start working with a financial advisor again. But I started working with this tool, Financial Gym. And what's great is they charge you just $100 a month, which is an investment. It's an investment, but you tell them, you have a meeting with them, you give them all, these are my goals, you tell them exactly how much money you have. And then based on that, they give you like how you should allocate like your money, como en qué tipo de buckets, like what your budget should be, like what you should try to, like how much you should try to save. And so it was super, super helpful for me because I had a lot of financial anxiety and was really feeling like my situation was worse than it really was. And actually having this meeting and also having them be like, okay, this is how you should allocate your money. Like I'm a freelancer, right? And so, or I'm a contractor. And so I was feeling really guilty anytime I would take a trip because I'm like, okay, if I take a trip, that means I'm not making money and I'm spending my money, right? I don't have a job. So it doesn't feel like going on a trip was really stressful for me. Mm-hmm. And what they helped me do is like, oh, you should create a budget. And they even told me the amount. Put this much money, this is your travel budget. Mm. And so therefore, I know that I send me dinero and I'm adding money to my travel budget every month. And now I start and I know it's for that. So I can actually use it and not feel bad about it because I know that I've decided to allocate. So that helped me a lot with my financial anxiety as well. And then they give me a budget, like, okay, this is your fixed spending, your variable spending. And then I use a credit card that's just for my variable spending so that I know I'm trying to keep a budget, and that's how I can keep a budget. Like, oh, this is my money that's just for me, and I can keep track of how much I'm spending a week to see how close I am to the budget. And so that's been really helpful. So having a credit card, having different credit cards for the different things that you're doing so that you know how you're tracking. So
I just need to cut my credit cards at this point because
yeah,
I've tried a budget tracker. Like one of my corporate jobs.
Just have one credit card for the things that are like, you have your things that you're gonna pay every month, and you know what those are. Yeah. But then there's the stuff that's like just for you. I would use just one credit card for that, so you know exactly how you're kind of budgeting on your variable spending. So I have an amount that I'm trying to reach every week month to keep some of my budget.
Because one of my corporate jobs, they gave us like a free financial planner.
Yeah.
And I had a call with this guy, and we had like an Excel sheet, like a budget tracker, and I was like, I was shocked at how much money I spent on like dumb stuff I didn't need, like all the subscriptions. Yeah. And then I was like, mes usted, and I was like, I'm not using this anymore. But I kept it, and I'm like, I think I need to go back to it.
Yeah.
Because I was getting paid a 6-figure job, and I was like, I need to know how to like use my money, but my spending habits are not it.
I'm slowly learning that you have like a flight response.
Yeah, 100%.
Me?
Cesar.
Oh, yeah. No, I love it. It's just fun to like...
That's funny. Mine's freeze.
What do you mean, no?
Mine's fight.
I mean, I'm an Aries. I'm impulsive. I just like...
Oh, yeah, you're an Aries.
Like, I got paid? Where are we going?
That's not already a bitch attachment. No, it's not a bad thing.
And you fight. And what's fight? Yeah. What's your moon?
Do you know?
Virgo. Okay. Because my moon's in Cancer. But I'm a Capricorn.
What's my rising? Money. I'm kidding.
That was cute. No, I mean, I just think it's kind of cool. Sorry, it was an observation. But I think it's just kind of cool to see how we respond to different things. And as we've been now recording so many episodes and just talking real conversations that we don't get to talk about. Like, that's the one thing I love about this project. That we get to have real conversations. Like, you don't hear so many people talking about money and what it means for us and as queer people, todo eso. Well, thank you for sharing your tips. Do you have any goals for
Do you have any goals? I'm kidding.
Right. I mean, I feel like I discovered a new one. Follow her tips. I was like, damn.
Well, a goal that I have been able to like slowly get to is saving a lot more this year. I started a new job in January, and I feel like they're paying me really well that I'm like, okay, one of these paychecks, like half of it has to go to savings, like trying to be more intentional with where I put my money. But also a goal of mine is just to help my parents more. Like I'm slowly trying to help them a little bit more. Like I know like knock on wood right now, they're like están bien, but I feel like they could use that extra help.
Yeah.
Even though they will never say it, you know what I mean?
It.
So I'm like just trying to make sure that they're taken care of, they're okay. I mean, I would love to own a home, but I need to get married.
We gotta buy it somewhere else, y'all.
We gotta buy it together, and I'm kidding.
Oh no, I mean I'm open to that. Anyways.
But yeah,
buy it somewhere
saving
else.
more money. I think this year I just want to save more money. I just need to grow my savings like times 2.
Yeah, because you also started a new job. So like you're
so
also
you're
rebuilding.
Yeah, I'm rebuilding. Because I was unemployed last year, so I feel like that depleted my savings, and I had like a good amount, and I was like, oh my God, finally like something to like have on my savings account, and then I had to like survive, and then now I'm like slowly building that up again. But yeah, just want to grow that savings account.
That's real.
Yeah.
I love it. Bueno, paletitas, hemos llegado al final de otro episodio más con nosotras. I really hope y'all learned a lot. Make sure you follow us on YouTube, Spotify, and all of the platforms where you can get podcasts. Véanos and share in your comments if you have any financial goals, and you know, we'll read them and share them with all y'all. Y recuerden que la vida es más sabrosa con nosotras porque somos
las Paleteras.
Hi, Paletitas. This podcast is produced by Joel and Elpidio Perez, along with your hosts. Las Paleteras is edited by Augusto Martinez, with music by Cintia Morado and Ingrid Guijarro. Special thanks to our friends at Mitu and Sonoro for production support.